And I'm back. This is part 2 of making our boho tassel, and we got as far as putting the wire through, and it's glued into the cap, and we've put a decorative piece of paper on the top of the cap because very little of this is going to show, but you still don't want to see that clear cap. Well, maybe you do, but you don't have to use paper. You can also use fabric, pieces of felt, pieces of ribbon, whatever you have on hand. It's just a little finish to cover the top of the cap, and it doesn't have to look perfect because we're going to again embellish on top of this. So now we want to decorate the caps, and if you saw my other caps, they have fabric underneath or lace trim underneath, and then they have the embellishing on top. And so I went, while you were waiting for me, I went and cut another piece of that orange fabric, and I cut another piece of this kind of a fibery ribbon here. And I'm just going to put some glue just to kind of get me started, and then I will use glue here and there throughout all the way around. You could use hot glue. I just find this quicker and easier to do, and it doesn't leave big lumps. And if you're careful with the hot glue, of course you can make that work too. I don't need much. I wrap it around a couple of times and then put another dot of glue, and I'm just using this flat piece to go around. And what you're doing is you're building up this cap a little bit so that it's got a more rounded look and doesn't look so commercial plastic flat. And you're covering up the plastic as well. And don't worry about the jump rings, because as you put on layers you won't see those jump rings, but you'll still be able to feel around for them in order to be able to decorate them. And just quickly, I'm going around. And when I do these, I like to have 2 or 3 projects at the same time going so that I can switch from one to the next. And I kind of do it assembly line style until I get everything one step done and then on to the next step. And it doesn't matter if part of the plastic is showing with the first layer, because as you put things around, it will cover up those layers, or cover up the plastic. So I hope you can see me wrapping this. And I'm just using the same fibers and the same fabric that I used for making the tassel, but you know, you can make it however you want. If you want cream colored lace or at the top or something else at the top, that's entirely up to you. So now I've got the first layer on, and I'm going to take this orange shirt fabric that I have, and I think I'll start at this end because it's plainer at this end. And I will put this big blob of glue, which I wasn't intending, but I will put a blob of glue here and start to wrap with this. And you can wrap it and twist it and make it like a rope. And I don't put glue all the way around because right now you can't see it, but I can feel the glue seeping through on my fingers, so I'm going to be a bit of a sticky mess. But here and there I will go back and put some glue. And just continue wrapping, going up to the top. Oh, my glue is just blobbing out on me. I think because I just filled the bottle, it's pretty full. And I'm just wrapping around the top, and you can see that we're not going to see much of where the seam is from the little piece of paper that we stuck on top. Now you could go back when we're finished and glue some beads up here after you're done, but you don't have to. And I'm just going to end with a little bit of glue here and just tie this down. So this is where you might want to add some different bling. Now I showed you in this one, we added the beaded trim, that flat back plastic trim. And on this one, I added some really glittery trim. Again, you can buy this in rolls at your local craft shop or small change store, so there's lots of options. And then on this one, I glued some gems along the outside. You could glue coins or trinkets, or you could do manual beading. You've got fabric as the base, so you could take a needle and thread and bead and put sequins. You can get quite fancy with these if you want to. For the sake of this video, I'm just going to do something fast, and that's I'm going to put this sort of coppery gold colored bling on it. I don't want to cover up this beautiful orange fabric, so I'm only going to do about three gems wide, which is what I've done in the past on some of the other ones. So you can see that you'll get 2 out of 1 strip depending on the type that you buy. And I'm just going to do a quick measurement first by wrapping it around. And this way I know where to cut it. And I'm going to put a little bit of hot glue to get me started on the first couple beads, because that will hold it in place. And finding the end to cover that fabric where, and also to reinforce the edge where the fabric ended, I'm just going to kind of cover it onto the glue. If you have glue strings, you can always take a hair dryer afterwards and run over top to get rid of the glue strings. And just roll it off your fingers if it's on your fingers. And I just put a few dots here and there. And what a difference it makes already, eh? Just a little bit of blingy stuff. Again, you can still go back and add charms. Be careful with your glue gun if you're working with a hot glue gun, but you are on your own. It's entirely up to you. You can use your wet glue to glue around. And I'm just going to pull that so that it's reasonably close to the one I... Now, depending, you should measure each time that you're doing this. Don't assume that it will fit each time, because it depends on how much wrapping you've done around it. And like I said, if there's glue bits showing or strings, just take your hot hair dryer and you can get rid of all the little bits. But you can see how just a little bit of bling has changed the look of this thing already. So now comes the beading of this wire top. Now you can see that this is a long piece of wire, and that's because I like to put a long string of beads. Maybe you only want to put 3 or 4 beads. But after I've beaded it, I also like to take the wire and wrap it around and make a fancy little ending so that I can dangle a charm or a chain off of the end. So that's entirely up to you. You know, it's a matter of practice. If you don't want to make it as blingy as mine, because you can see where the top of this ends and then where the wire continues. So I love to have all this stuff dangling and hanging from it. So it's up to you. You can cut it shorter, but I recommend that you do a couple of tests, even if it means wasting a couple of inches, just to get a feel for how you bend the wire, how many things you want to put on there. So don't cut yourself short. It's better to have a little bit extra and then cut it back. You can always save these extra pieces for making other charms and other bead dangles, but that is again for another video. So for today, I've got this long wire, the leftover after doing the hook part, and this is what I'm going to bead today. And I pre-made my charms that are going on here. As you can see, I have quite a bucket of them because after this video, I'm going to make quite a large selection of these. But I pre-made my charms so that I have 4 going around the base of the cap where we had put the jump rings, and we're going to have to feel around and find them. And then one is going to be the dangle that dangles off the top of my beaded top with the wire that I left hanging off the edge. And this one I have hanging quite low. On some of them I have the dangle on a long chain. And on this green one I just have it short coming off of the edge of the wire. I'm hoping you can see that. So because I used the same beads, I'm just going to grab them again. And I'm not too concerned of which method, or you don't have to have all your beads matchy-match. In fact, I recommend that you don't, because it just adds far more interest to your project. And none of these oh, I don't want this bead. None of these charms are exactly the same. They are using some of the same beads, but they're not exactly the same, because I wanted to add a little bit of interest and have people look at the whole thing. So I don't know exactly what I'm going to use here yet, but we'll see. And a couple of these. Now, if you want to do some beading with me one day, let me know in the comments below, and maybe we can have a bead class. Lost that. And a couple of these little gold spacers. And that should be plenty. Oh, I should also show you, I had this, I was going to use this on one, but I forgot about it. I had this orange pearls for, and they're plastic, and I was going to wrap those around the top, and I forgot. But I can do that on the next one, or I can still go back and add it on top afterwards too if I want. But it'll make it a little bit more bulky now that I have this on here. So there's no rhyme or reason. It's whatever your personal preference is. You just add your beads onto the top through the wire. You want a gold spacer in between because there's a lot of gold on here. And your beads can come from broken jewelry, or you can go out and buy some, or you can check out the thrift shops. Again, beads are not expensive, and you can raid your jewelry box. There's probably jewelry you don't even wear anymore that you can use. For the charms, you can use earrings that you don't wear anymore, or maybe you've lost an earring and you have one charm. Okay, and I think I'm going to finish off there. So I've put an assortment of beads on the top that match my tassel and match the charms that I'm going to be adding onto them. So from here, you need a pair of round nose pliers. See how they have a rounded nose on them? Now you're going to grab the wire, and you're going to leave maybe about a 1/16 of an inch space underneath, next to the top bead. And you're holding your wire with your needle nose pliers, and you're going to bring this wire forward towards you and completely around, and then you're going to wrap it around that top bead. So it means going around a couple of times. There are other wrapping videos. If mine is not clear enough for you to get the point on that one, there are other wrapping ones to watch, so eventually it will make sense. And then once you've wrapped it around a few times above that last bead, you know that this is secure. It's also secure, it's tight, it's holding onto your tassel, so it's not going to go anywhere. And you've got a little loop at the top now that you can attach it with a jump ring, because we already know how to use jump rings. So you can attach it with a jump ring to other clips that you can clip onto your journals or on a screen. I leave it like that, and I just use a bulb pin at the top, which is nice and easy to use. There's a bulb pin. So it's easy now to attach it to just about anything. So then I have this leftover wire, and I just spiral it down, just very gently, cascading it like a waterfall, going around my beads. You can see that. I've just cascaded it around till I get to the top of my bead, or to the top of my cap. And then I take the round nose pliers, the same round nose pliers, and I make a little loop at the end, just going around to close it off. Can you see how that's done? And there's still a little room, so I think I will push this out a little bit so that it wraps around a little looser. But it just gives you that airiness and that flow. And it's a great way to use up your wire. And if your wire moves around on you, you can fix it up a little bit. But it's a great way to use up the rest of your wire and not cutting it off at the top and leaving you this sharp edge that you have to deal with. So now I've got it wrapped around my beads, like I said, cascading like a waterfall. Just wrap it gently around. At first, it's a little harder to do, but you'll get the hang of doing it. And then finishing it off with a little loop that I can now dangle something from. So I'm going to dangle one of my charms from here. And normally I put chain on mine and then dangle the charm, and I usually do that ahead of time, but for the sake of this video, I'm doing it step by step with you. So now I'm going to talk about some chain. And I'll get these beads out of my way so don't end up on the floor. Chain. I have a jar here of all kinds of chain. Broken bracelets, broken necklaces, things I picked up at the thrift shop. Sometimes I bought a chain because I wanted the pendant that was dangling from it, so it goes into this jar. Sometimes it's the weirdest bits of chain that I find. This chain here with the beads on it is actually a wine bottle cover. Oh, with beads coming off of it. It's a wine bottle cover, and I just chop away at it whenever I need some beads. The nice thing about this is that it has the beads and the chain in between, so I can take it apart. It's jump rings. I can take it apart and then add it into my other jewelry pieces that I want to connect to. So there's that type of chain. There's these were very inexpensive, and I'm sure you've seen them. They're just very cheap aluminum chain that has charms on them. Like this has kind of a 4-leaf clover, but it's very cheap chain with lots of easy holes to hook onto. This happens to be green. I used it on my green one to dangle the charms from. So again, don't go out and buy expensive stuff. Check out your jewelry box. Don't use the gold, the real gold, but well, you can if you want. But yeah, buy some cheap chains. I do a lot of jewelry making, so yes, I have chain, and in this case, because of the video, I decided I'm going to use my good chain just because I wanted it to be handy and not have to dig to find. But honestly, I do use, if you look on my table, I have all kinds of different chains here. This chain I wouldn't use so much for these tassels, but I would use this type of a chain as a connector or to extend something, not so much for the tassels, but maybe for other projects. But it also comes with chains that I can take apart, and it's all jump rings, so it's one of those things to take apart bit by bit, because this is I think this is called I don't know, it's a multi-link chain. I can't remember the name of what this is called. So in order to take this apart, it's a little bit harder to do because there's usually 2 or 3 chains interlocking with each other to take apart. So it's more time consuming. chain like this, I just find the end of it, wherever the end is on this one. Of course, there we go. And I don't sit and measure chain. I just cut little pieces using a pair of wire cutters. And you will break one or two of the chain links, but then you know that the links are closed. And you don't have to measure, you've got your pieces of chain. Now I dropped it, so now I won't find the end, of course. There we go. So I'm just cutting off 5 pieces. So there's a lot of, again, opportunity where you can check out thrift shops. I always say, craft with your eyes open. Look for things that you wouldn't normally look at. A lot of times you can find bags of chain, just chains, because the thrift shop gets so much stuff, and you know, nobody buys just the chains because a lot of times they're tarnished. But those are the perfect pieces to use for making tassels and for embellishing your journals and stuff, is the broken bits. So I had pre-made my charms that I was going to put on this tassel. And again, if you want to have a class where we make these charms, just let me know in the comments below, and we can do that. So I'm going to open them up and put the chain on this little ring here. You can also use one jump ring to connect the two together. Sorry, this takes time to I think I'll just use jump rings on the next one. Yeah, I think I'm just going to close this and use a jump ring. It's too hard to do it quickly and on camera. So again, I have a jump ring here. I'm going to open it up, put this ring on, put the chain on, or this charm. So any kind of charms, if you've got charms or broken jewelry or earrings, close them. And you can see I'm using my finger. I'm so used to doing this. A lot of people don't want to use their finger because they'll break their nail, and plus they'll you know, if you've got nail polish on. I don't wear nail polish, so I've put a jump ring to connect the chain to the charm, and then I'm going to put another jump ring on the other end to connect this end of the chain. And this is where you've got to feel around inside here in your cap where you put those original jump rings. Put it on, and using a second pair of pliers, close it. And I don't want to hear your swearing because I know you're going to cuss a little bit. And I've closed off that chain, and now it's hanging on my piece here. So I'm going to do the same thing again. Like I said, normally I have I put the chain on right when I'm actually making these. I put the chain on, and I'm joining the chain to the charm first. Closing that off. And then at the other end of the charm or chain, I'm going to put the second jump ring. There's some of them are soft enough to open up with your fingers, but others are a little harder to open. Oh, I don't want to close it yet. And remember where we put the beads on, and I have this little loop at the end of the cascade of wire. I'm just going to put that on there. And when you're doing this, you'll realize how this is not so easy to do on camera and show you what I'm doing. But I've closed that jump ring. and I now have this charm hanging from the beaded end where I've wrapped the wire around, and I made a loop at the end of the top here. And so I'm going to continue going around with my other 3 charms on all sides of this bead cap. So you can use the jump rings as I showed you and put those underneath or like inside the plastic cap, and then you just have to feel around for them, and you'll find them within your wrappings. Or, you know, before you put this bling on, you can stitch, if you like to use a needle and thread, you can stitch onto this fabric and have beaded things hanging. Or maybe you don't want beaded things hanging, or maybe you want to wrap them around from up here. The decorating part is entirely up to you. The main thing is that you know how to put the tassel together, how to put it through the cap, and then how to decorate the top of the cap as well. So you can see there's very little of this cap showing where we put the paper down. You could actually put some beads and like glue the beads right down onto the surface there if you wanted to, or another piece of blingy fabric. That's entirely up to you again. But the decorating part is just your personal expression and how you want to play around with it. I'm just giving you the different options, and then you just take it from there. So once you have all 4 beads and chain around, now this one is a little bit easier to see them, of course, because of the light background, but you can see how the chains are dangling here. And there is a second jump ring that I used there. It just makes it easier to attach to the first jump ring. And everybody is different. Maybe you'll put these on right away as you're doing them before you decorate the cap. Maybe you won't use jump rings at all. Maybe you'll love jump rings so much that you will go on to make chainmail clothing because you've learned how to work with jump rings. So it's entirely up to you. And you know, I'm just being silly. So this one as well, I added the chain onto the side. I really want you to see the side. I hope you can in here. And if not, I'll just kind of pull this apart a little bit so you can see it better where it's hanging down. And yeah, I just cascaded around, bulb pin for the top, and you have a lovely charm. So I will carry on and finish this one off camera, and I will have a day where I show you all of these that I made all at once. And yeah, I've got different colors on the go right now. And just to give you an idea, I have a bunch of ivory ones here that I'm working on. So I have lots to make, and lots of plans, great plans of grandeur, as I say. So yes, stay tuned, and I will show you in another video really quickly just the end result of all my finished boho tassels. And again, as I said, these are long. You may want to make them shorter. That's up to you. You also may want to trim them down. You can trim them down, but I like them nice and long, and I like them nice and raggedy looking. So that's entirely up to you. I hope this was a good enough explanation to keep working and making more of these. Keep saving your caps and using them up, and at least giving them a second life so that they don't go into the landfill right away. Some of your glue sticks, you can finagle around with the other end of the glue stick and come up with some projects, but I think that's depends on, I don't want to say you can use just any glue stick because not any glue stick works, but just play around and see if you can use the tube in the glue stick. Those make for some interesting long caps for doing tassels, but not everyone works, and not everyone can you get this twisty part, the part that turns the glue stick. Not everyone you can get these off, so I don't want to show you that because you may not have the same type of glue sticks, and that you may not have access to the same type. But as for caps, like I said, look for different kinds that you can use. You know, some glue sticks they're a little bit longer and different colors, so you don't have to decorate them so much. You can leave them in the colors that they are. I'll use these. But yeah, there's lots of different caps that you can use for making your dangles and charms. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it was well explained to you. And I will be sharing with you other things in upcoming Sunday tutorials. And you know that I have my Thursday, Thrifty Thursday videos that I show you. And we will have another one coming up on Tuesdays soon. And that's going to be a collaboration with several artisans and YouTubers, so that you'll get to hop from one place to the other. And you get to participate. And that's all I get to tell you for today. Thank you so much for subscribing to my channel and liking my videos and comments. Your comments are amazing, and please keep them coming. I love it. And if you can, please share the videos with other people so that maybe they will subscribe. We're almost at 800 subscribers now and going for 1,000. And when I get to 1,000, it'll be time for more giveaways. So thank you very much. Have yourself a very creative day and a creative week, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye for now.